Shabbat Shalom, fam. I'm back to speak to you about why Christ had to die. And I do challenge you to go and make sure you read Deuteronomy 6th chapter, since this is the continuation of another lesson. I won't read that at this point, but it is the oath to get your mind, body, and spirit right about your efforts and what your mindset should be when working on this covenant and our part of it to inherit and to have righteousness, to inherit the blessings that come with it. But with that being said, I want to pick up on establishing the relationship with the covenant, the husband, the bride side, because in figurative terms, that's what both sides are. I want to show you where God, under the Mosaic covenant that was established, if you will, through the offering and through the author in Exodus 24th chapter. That was kind of the final selling point for all the work that it took to get up to that point. But I also want to kind of go where I can establish and show in Exodus 19, we need to show the relationship angle. So if you will, let's go ahead and read. I'm going to go Exodus the 19th chapter, and I'll go ahead and start at verse 1 so I can establish this, the proper setting. Exodus 19:1. In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai, for they were departed from Rephidim and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount. Verse 3. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, This shalt thou say to the house of Jacob, the 12 tribes, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Now therefore, if ye will obey my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. Right here, folks, we got to stop right here. He said, man, I made this my earth. I know what I mean when I say earth and world and above all. He said, I know it's more than y'all down here. But since I made this earth, I'm picking you all to be a peculiar, particularly endeared to me out of all the other people that are upon the face of the earth. Think about that now. God is telling you, I'm pulling you out of this group. So it is a particular group of people that are chosen. It ain't just people that, hey, I like, and I go to church, I do whatever. It's not that. I'm sorry, people. That's not it. It's the covenant. If you will obey my voice and keep my covenant. So keeping his covenant is obeying his voice. His voice are the laws, statutes, and commandments. Eat that now. Eat that. You got to eat that. I'm sorry. I don't want to hear nothing about whatever. But that's what established that. So now, let's go to verse 6. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and holy nations. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. God is telling Moses what to come back and tell the children or our forefathers. Verse 8. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. He went back and told he know that, but the point was he went back and told God, hey, they said they read it, man. Verse 9. And the Lord said unto Moses, lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever. And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord. Verse 10. And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto the people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. Clean them out before I deal with them. You ain't finna come to me dirty with your worst on, but you put your best on to go to the house of jazz or to Legion or wherever you may go to the trap. Whatever you do, you put your best stuff on to go out to do your frolicking. But the Most High saying, man, get them cleaned up, and we're gonna do this right. Bathe and wash your clothes. Verse 11. And be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. There we go. There we go. Exodus 19:11. God told him, get them prepared, but you can't be dirt around me. That needs to be established. You can't be dirt around the Most High now. That's what his covenant, his covenants, law, statute. That's what they do. They clean us up to our maximum potential. So he made them take 3 days to get bad before he came down. I can see everybody else need about 30, 40 minutes. Man, let me go around and take a quick shower and I'll be over there. For the Most High, nah, that ain't enough, bro. That's not enough. So what needs to happen is that you need to understand that this, if you believe scripture, if you don't, then do what you do. But this was said unto the children by the Most High. So he said, on the third day, I will come down so that everybody can see me. He's telling you, I'm going to let y'all see me so we can get this right. And I'm telling you, this is so important because somebody would have had to see him, man. I'm sorry, bro. I don't care what nobody with all this overly spiritual. Oh, no, you don't. Somebody had to see it for it to get believed and put in our DNA to know when it gets our genes get passed down or our seed gets passed down that you might be ignoring, you might say bump it, but that thing will be in us to know that there's had to be some truth with it because somebody put it in the people that it needed to be in. So he said, I'm going to come down the third day. And let's go to verse 12. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves, that ye go not up into the mount or touch the border of it. Whosoever touches the mount shall be surely put to death. He told you what not to touch, because you ain't sanctified yet. He ain't chose you to be cleansed yet to touch something. Now I want to go back to that third day too, because we all remember what Christ said. Take 3 days to rebuild the temple. They didn't understand what he meant by it, and on the third day of events, that's when he rose. So that all ties into those 3 days being a period of the last day of being unclean till on the third day uh, being clean or being renewed or being refreshed. Let's look at it that way. So that part is what I want everybody to see and understand. So that being said, let's go verse 13. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mount unto the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, be ready against the third day. Come not at your wives. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. And the Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mount. And the Lord called Moses up to the top of the mount. And Moses went up. And the Lord said unto Moses, go down, change the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And the priests also who come near the Lord sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. And Moses said unto the Lord, the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou changest us, saying, set bounds about the mount and sanctify it. And the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down into the people and basically spoke to them to let them know, hey, it's not finna happen. And in the next verse, Exodus 20, that's when the Most High start breaking down the commandments, the original 10 commandments, to set the precedence. These are not all of the commandments and all of the statutes and laws, but that's what happens in verse 20. But because of the subject matter, I wanted to establish that, um, establishing the relationship of the covenant so that we can see what is going to basically happen with Christ. So just keep in mind, we know that there is a covenant. Let's just say yes to that. Okay. We know that there is a covenant. So with that being the case, I think we need to go to I want to go to Hosea. Let's go to let's just go ahead and go to 2 Kings 17th chapter. Now, just a preclusion. 1 Kings 17 brought about Elijah that was sent from the Most High. Um, to give them a final warning before a divorce of the covenant or the covenant being taken away to most of the tribes, 11 of them to be exact, to where they were not covered under the righteousness, the blessings, and or the curse, and were just not a protected or peculiar people to the Most High anymore. But I tell you who was saved, but I wanted to establish that because I still want you to read as well as below. Hopefully you'll be able to drop comments and questions, what have you, in the comment section so that we can continue and expound upon this for all our people so that we can get to where we're going, right? So, but at the end of the day, Elijah was brought in. The reason he was brought in because they had gotten to this point since the beginning of the covenant from Exodus 24 leading up to now. They basically were getting too cute for themselves, thought that they couldn't be touched because they were the chosen and they were under that. And they got away from what their part of being the chosen was and what they were supposed to do. So with that being said, they were doing all the wrong things. So I want to kind of go through Second Kings. I'm gonna read to you Second Kings 7, and we'll go down to at least 29. But we'll go through and I'll explain to you so that you get the point of the fact that God did in fact kill the covenant, and this is the chapter that begins it and explains it, and after that, the regathering of the tribe, the lost sheep. This is where the sheep begin to be lost. All right, let's go. So let's go. Second Kings 17th chapter, 7th verse. For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods. That means they were doing what the other gods told them. And that's the premise that we do what the Most High tells us because of the fear of his power. So they were doing what the other gods had told them. I just want to keep that in mind for my new people that while I'm reading this. Verse 8, and walked in the statutes of heathens, whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel and of the king of Israel, which they had made. Verse 9, and the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God, violated the covenant, and they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. They just getting cute now. That's what this is basically narrowing down and going against what God told them to do. Verse 10, and they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathen whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. Key word, jealous God. Now you done got him angry. Verse 12, for they served idols, whereof the Lord had said unto them, ye shall not do this thing. He told them not to do it, and they did. Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. Verse 13, yet the Lord testified against Israel, made a statement, and against Judah. When they separated like that, the kingdom was split into the two kingdoms at this point. The previously one kingdom. So one kingdom was called the house of Israel, and the other was called the house of Judah. There were 10 tribes in the house of Israel that belonged to the house of Israel, and 2 tribes that belonged to the house of Judah, Judah and Benjamin. I know people say that Levi was actually in the house of Judah, but that's because they were the high priests. They had to be down there to perform the ceremonial rituals, which was their job because they didn't have an inheritance, and their inheritance was a tenth of all the growth from all of the other men of the 12 tribes to bring to them on particular points in time, the Sabbaths and days, in whatever manner was accustomed to proper for whatever their situation was when they were able to gather it. But they had to bring that to the temple. So keep that in mind. Two kingdoms, the house of Israel, 10 tribes, house of Judah, 2 tribes, 10 plus 2, 12. Even though Israel, the tribe of Levi were in both. They were the high priests performing priestly duties, right? So, verse 13 again. Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn ye from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, and which I sent to you by my servants, the prophets. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their necks, like to the neck of their fathers that did not believe in the Lord their God. Verse 15. And they rejected his statutes. They rejected God's statutes and his covenant that he made with their father, the agreement that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies which he testified against them. And they followed vanity and became vain and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord had charged, them, that they should not do like them. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove and worshipped all the host of heaven and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire and used divination and enchantments and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. Verse 18. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only, not the house of Judah, the tribe of Judah. And I'm going to point to you why the Most High, even though in his anger, and he had already pre-said, he knew we was going to try. So this is iron sharpening iron. All right, you got to have some tough against the tough people. You got to have some stern against the stern people. So this point, 2 Kings 17 and 18, this is where God divorced the covenant. The covenant was still active, but there was only Judah after this point left up under. And it wasn't that Judah was perfect. He made a promise to David. He said he would not, and I think I already read that to you in Genesis, that he would never do away with his covenant or with his word or with his people, even if he has to chastise them. But his love eventually will never go away, but he's chastising as a father would their son. That's what's happening with any punishment that we get as a nation, as the 12 tribes. But therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left. Remember that. Out of 12, there were none left but the tribe of Judah. So you take Judah out, that leaves how many were not under the covenant? 11. Thank you. Verse 19. Also, Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord their God, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into the hands of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight. So if you out of somebody's sight, they ain't seeing you. They're not saying no. So that means God is not protecting. He doesn't have his arm around them anymore because we didn't do, or the Israelites at that point, that group didn't do exactly what he wanted. And Judah got spared because of what the Most High promised to David in Psalms 89. I want to say 37, maybe 29 through 38, but Psalms 89. Read that and you'll see the promise. As a matter of fact, maybe I should go to that to get the exact verse so that you can see why they got saved. Let's go to Psalms, the 89th verse in the 29th chapter. His seed also will I make to endure forever, and his throne as the days of heaven. His seed will endure forever. If his children forsake my law and walk not in my judgments, if they break my statutes and keep not my commandments, then will I visit their transgression with the rod and their iniquity with stripes. Right here, Psalms 89, verse 32. God, the Most High said, I'm going to make their seed last forever. He's telling you he got it set up forever. But if y'all try him, if you go against him, he going to beat you with the rod and them stripes. He going to whoop you in all different angles you can get whooped. Whatever a whoop can include, that's what we going to get and what you going to get trying the Most High. That was verse 32. Now, verse 33, nevertheless, my loving kindness will I not utterly take from him, nor suffer my faithfulness to fail. My covenant will I not break, nor alter the thing that is gone out of my lips. Once, verse 35, once have I sworn by my holiness that I will not lie unto David. His seed shall endure forever, and his throne as the sun before me. It shall be established forever as the moon, and as a faithful witness in heaven. Selah. So, Psalms 89 is telling you God made a promise to David. That's what basically sealed us from ever being pushed away from the complete removal from the covenant. And I apologize for my head being off the screen, but that don't matter. Focus on my lips. So that's what you have to do. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, if you first time studying the word this way, you get precepts to add upon precepts to keep the story clear and to validate whether they meant yin or yang, whatever the case may be. But with that being said, I wanted to go back to 2 Kings 17, and I think we stopped at the 23rd. Let's go back to the 22, verse 22. No, I want to go back to verse 21. Psalm 17, 2 Kings, 17, verse 21. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord, and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them. They didn't stop doing it. Verse 23, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants and the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. This is when Syrian captivity, all of that stuff was beginning to happen. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cutha, from Avah, from Hamath, from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. So the children of Israel getting pushed out of Samaria and getting replaced by these other nations upon their, being possessed, if you will, or in captivity of. And so it was the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wow. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the God of the land. Therefore he hath sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of God of the land. So that land was sacred. And so he was showing them that they didn't treat the land as such. So he sent a couple of little rodents in there so that they could be properly introduced to the you're not going to do that over here uh, ministry. And so let's go. Now that we know that the Most High, 2 Kings 17, had pretty much turned this back or created the divorce, and I'm gonna specify that particular divorce in Jeremiah. We're gonna go Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8. Let's go chapter 3 and verse 8, so we can get right to the meat of it. So y'all keep these chapters and books, read around them, top north, and if you got some of those Bibles that have the precept in them, but eventually upon time, the more you study and read, you'll eventually remember precept. Oh, we're talking about that over here, blah, 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 blah. Some books already have some precept set for you, depends, Bibles, I should say. So it depends on that. But anyway, to establish that the Most High divorced the Israelites, or the majority of them, from the covenant. Let's go Jeremiah 3 and go to verse, let's go to verse 6. The Lord said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel, the house of Israel, hath done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, that and there hath played the harlot. She done everything, is what they're saying. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me. But she returned not. And her treacherous sister, Judah, saw it. Sister, we're in the feminine tense. Judah was a man, but he's saying as a component, it's a woman. So we're establishing husband, wife, parties to this covenant, which is a marriage license or an agreement. In verse 8, and I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the likeness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this, her treacherous sister Judah had not turned unto me with her whole heart, but feigningly, saith the Lord. So what he's telling you up to this point, we still got a couple more verses, that even though he put that thing on Israel, Judah still was out there tripping. And he still gave Israel, he said, man, all right, you did what you did, stop it and come back. No, let me go get one more, let me go. And basically that type of mentality. He said, okay, you trying your boy. So that's what he did. Let's go to verse 11. And the Lord said unto me, the backsliding Israel hath justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return thy backsliding, Israel, said the Lord, and I will not cause mine anger to come upon you. For I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will not cause my anger to fall upon you. For I am merciful, saith the Lord, and I will not keep anger forever. He's telling you he won't keep it forever, but you got to stop trying him. Do you get that? That's what you're doing. He gave you a chance to repent. Only acknowledge thine iniquity. Exactly. That thou hast transgressed against the Lord thy God, and hast scattered thy ways to the strangers under every green tree. And ye have not obeyed my voice, saith the Lord. Turn, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you, and I will take you, one of a city and two of a family, and I will bring you to Zion, and I will give you pastors according to mine heart, which shall feed you with knowledge and understanding. With knowledge and understanding. But let's go back to verse 14. Turn, O backsliding Israel, O backsliding children, saith the Lord, for I am married unto you, and I will take you, one of a city, two of a family. He's saying, I'll take the least of you, but just turn. But the key word here is, I was married unto you. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see. Now, where I want to go now, remember that was the establishment. You heard them say, I was married unto you. And I want to get it double confirmed. Let's go to Jeremiah 31 and 30, 31 and 31. Let's start there. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord. So what was he to the 12 tribes of Israel? He was a husband. And I'm going to show you why that is so critical to for that to be established. He was a husband. So remember that covenant that had all those laws in there? So if you're a husband and your wife is an adulterous woman or did what she had to do, there are laws for married people. If the wife is an adulteress, previous to the Mosaic law, you would be stoned to death. You would be killed, and that would be the end of that. And the man, if he slept with a man's wife, so you would be dealt with in that manner. So keep that in mind, because see, the Most High ain't gonna give you no laws that he ain't gonna hold true. In other words, he gonna follow them same laws. So if he was the husband, Israelites or the house of Israel was the adulterous wife, and being adulterous in that manner means that you worship false gods. You went to another dude or went to another man and did cook for him and bowed to him and washed his feet and did all the stuff you are only supposed to do for your husband. That makes you an adulterous wife, right? So if you did that, the laws of adultery come into play, and now those laws actually apply to Israel or to the lost sheep. So now you cannot be married, and you can't remarry to anyone. Those laws apply to you as long as the husband liveth. So let's go to the laws of marriage to tie into this point. So I wanted to make sure that you understood that we're going into the realm of the laws that apply with man and wife, husband and the wife is being adulterous or polluted. Now, before I get out of Jeremiah and go to my next precept in my chapter here, let's just look at Jeremiah 3:1. They say, if a man put away his wife and she go from him and become another man's wife, shall he return to her again? What this is saying is, once you divorce your wife and she goes to another man, the Most High told you that in Leviticus and Deuteronomy that she's dirty. You can't let her another man go into her area and then come back to you and you remarry her again after another man has touched her. And you know the reality is it's not clean. It's not clean in the Most High. That's like, man, why you touch, man? That's over with, bro. But that's what it was saying about Israel. So herein is what's creating where we're going to get to and why Christ had to come into it. Now, let's also go to, I think we want to go to, now, I think I want to go to Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter. Now, let me caution you about, well, not caution you, but let me just put before you how you understand and put this in the allegorical context of a real man, real woman, the spiritual top being, which can manifest physical, and the spiritual title, if you will, that would include the children of Israel or the house of Israel and the Most High or Yahweh and him being the God of all living. You know, however you want to put it in your mind, God versus the title of the children of Israel or the house of Israel. Now, let's keep that in mind. We're going to go to Deuteronomy, the 24th chapter, verses 1 through 4. And we'll get a breakdown after we read it. But let me just read to you an explanation of the law. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. God's house was the house of Israel. So he took her out of that house. So even though he labeled her Israel, in essence, that's the metaphorical comparison to literally putting the woman out of the house at that point. But I wanted you to keep in mind, then let him write her a bill of divorcement. That bill of divorce is what I want you to focus on, because you remember in Jeremiah 3:14, why did I swap out? But Jeremiah 3:14 stated that God wrote to what? 3 and verse 8. And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, worshiping false gods and idol, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. Remember that. A bill of divorce. A bill of divorce. That is what nullified and took away the covenant. A bill of divorce. So, with that being the case, let's just say that God can't bring the house of Israel back under the covenant. That's the thing that permanently or completely put her out. The only way that she could come back is I'm explaining you the conditions that she can come back. So let's go to Deuteronomy 24, back to verse 2 now. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. So that's when the law breaks up. Once he gave her the divorcement, yeah, go ahead and worship them other gods or go out there, this, that, and the other. But you can never, according to God's law, have a sanctified marriage and come back under those conditions. Once you were considered adulterous, means that another man, in our terms, touched you and touched that veil, and you can't get it out. In this case, you worshiped another god and didn't repent. And once you got separated from that, you can't come back under those conditions. You cannot come back under those conditions after being given a bill of divorce. That's the point that I'm trying to clear to you. Israel was divorced. So this is where Christ is about to get ready to come in. All right. Now let's go to verse 3, Deuteronomy 24 and verse 3. And if the latter husband hate her and write her a bill of divorcement and giveth it in her hand and sendeth her out of the house, or if the latter husband dies, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, in this case it would be the Most High, which sent her away or gave her the bill of divorcement, may not take her again to be his wife. After that, she is defiled, for that is an abomination before the Lord. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance. So what I am trying to show you is that that is the law that is putting into place why Christ had to come back. God can't bring him back up under the covenant. He can't be on the other side of the covenant. I want you to understand that. So now let's go to 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter. And let's go to verse 39. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, only in the Lord. Did you understand that? You got your divorce, so you can go marry whoever. Here's the problem, my fellow Israelites. Who you gonna marry? House of Israel, house of Judah, even though Judah was still saved, but let's just say house of Israel. Who you gonna marry? Who can give you what the covenant gave you in Deuteronomy 28 to be itemized and broken down, the curses and the gifts, and Genesis 25 as well, the blessing that Jacob got. Who else can you get that from? Ain't nobody else equal to God. That stuff he get, it wasn't no car or wasn't no, no chain around your neck. So it's a whole different ball game now. You can't get a husband equivalent to the Most High to match up and give you another covenant. It would take two gods, and it ain't but one. It would take at least two gods to be able to pull that off. Two gods with equal power. We know that's not happening. So that's what I want you to keep in mind that the children of Israel, or the house of Israel in particular, including Benjamin, they were all without a covenant after 2 Kings 17 when the Most High turned his back on them. Now, the period of time before Christ was crucified, you're talking about 700, almost 50 years. 700 and almost 50 years. That's the element that nobody keeps in place with the ending of the covenant to Christ doing what he has to do to bring the new covenant back, as Hebrews 8 and 8. That's why he said that I will give you a new covenant. I will give thee a new covenant. And we're going to talk about how he had to do it. Hebrews chapter 8, verse 8. For finding fault with them, he said, no, let's go Hebrews 8 and let's go verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, meaning that you had not broken your part of it, it doesn't mean that it wasn't perfect from God. It meaning that if the Israelites had not broken that first covenant, then should no place have been sought for the second. We wouldn't need to do a second one if you had not broke the first one, Israelite, not following the law, statutes, and commandments, following your wife or following your partners and telling you not to do something the Most High told you to do it. Verse 8, for finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, said the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, said the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. Keep that in mind, that he's telling you the finished product. It doesn't mean that all are going to make it. As a matter of fact, I think we want Zephaniah 13 and Zechariah, 13 and 8, regarding the 2/3. And let's go Zechariah 13 and 7. Awake, O sword, against my shepherd and against the man that is my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. Smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn mine hand upon the little ones. He's going to get the ones who's turned themselves into a child and are willing to come back right, not the old hard-headed ones. That's what that's alluding to. Verse 8, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire and refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God. What that's explaining to you is when he said the little ones, the ones who turned themselves into a child again, he said, be as a child and come to that point. That means take away all your learned memories and say, man, I don't know nothing. Teach me from the beginning like a little baby. That's basically what that is alluding to on a learning level, right? So, but he also said that 2/3 are not going to do it. And that's going to be the case now with Israel. But we're going to get right back to exactly. I wanted to establish with you that even though Christ is the tool that's being used to come in and to clarify that, let's just make sure that we understand this. Now, keep in mind, if it was going to be 750 years before Christ would actually be the sacrifice to renew the new covenant, 750 years, a lot of years for people not be following the commandments, or for there may have been some families that were hoping and still doing it. We don't know from every individual angle, but what we do know is that that's a lot of years to not be up under the covenant, to be scattered and just all over the place doing this and doing and not operating as a kingdom, right? as a house, if you will, all gathered in one place and a centralized power authority. So what that means is that a lot of people had gotten away from that chain of thinking and understanding. And some of them may say, man, we lost it, man. My granddad and them lost the covenant and we out here stuck. They might have just not been putting the effort for that required, like in the Shema, Deuteronomy 6, that effort, with all thy might and thy frontlets and on thy post and that type of, that's what I'm alluding to. So if that's the case, then here's where the problem is: the language, the decorum, um, the activities of those laws, they've gone thin. And now you got to bring this group of people who got scattered and lost. You got to bring them back under it. So for the new ones, the ones that who weren't even alive when that happened and didn't know that their bloodline went all the way back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, now you got to talk to them in a different language. You can tell them straight up, but they may be like, I don't get it. Okay, just take, for instance, if you do this and that, and okay, I get that. Well, it's kind of the same thing, but just over here and not over there. You get what I'm saying? They have to put out all these analogies and metaphors and similitudes to try to get a point across of what it is that they're gaining. And so I wanted to tell you that so that you'll understand why Paul said this in in chapter 7. This is what Paul was breaking down. That's why people thought that Paul was, man, he talking like he on this level. No, he was trying to speak in different ways to get the big picture of what this is to be an Israelite and to be up under the covenant meant to these people who their immediate forefathers, mothers, fathers, generations that was further away from the that time frame, 700 and some odd years before Christ uh, 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 came back to redeem those people. So you have to look at it that way. A particular group of people, your family, you didn't know your great grandfather owned oil with because the paperwork was lost after he died, but eventually it came back up. And when you found out, the people who have to go through the process of letting you know, they got to confirm it, find it out, and then find you and then put it on you. That's the process that's going through now. You just didn't know it. You were living your life like, whatever, whatever. Don't know that you have a blessing waiting. So think of it that way, whatever type of explanation you like to use. But with that being said, let's go to Romans chapter 7. This is where Paul was telling them exactly what I just told you. So, know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth. For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. Remember, we talked about that. 1 Corinthians 7 and Deuteronomy 24. But even though in verse 1 it said, hath dominion over man as long as he liveth, it's telling you that the laws is what creates the covenant and the blessings that come from it. So, for the woman which hath a husband is bound by the law to her husband as long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law. Keep that in mind. So, in order for that law to not apply anymore, your husband would have to die. It don't mean you kill him, but it does mean that if eventually he died, it ain't no I'm an adulterous woman anymore, or because the husband he doesn't count. So I get to start over because my husband died of natural causes or an accident or anything along that line, right? So that's the part that you have to understand is what this is talking about. So let's go to verses. So then, if her husband, verses chapter 3, Romans 7, verse 3, excuse me. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. If the husband did die and you went to marry another man or worship the other God, you are considered an adulteress, house of Israel. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that particular law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. So if the husband died, you can remarry again and start over. But this is also saying, but um, she is free from that particular law. That is the law that is being spoken of in Romans. It's not the laws of the covenant. They are dead to the law. They are not under the covenant. Dead to the law means that the lost sheep of Israel are not under the covenant because of this law. The marital law, the adulterous woman law, the husband still being alive law. You are dead to it means you can never marry the covenant again unless a particular thing happens. That's the metaphor, and that's why Paul was explaining that. And furthermore, let's go to verse 4. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Christ. What he's telling you is the way that law is going to get lifted because Christ is going to eventually die. Christ is going to eventually die. Christ adopted. He was sent for the children, but he had to perform the ritual that would keep him from breaking the law of Deuteronomy 24 and 1 Corinthians 7 and 39. He had to die because God can't change his laws in the middle of the game, then expect for you to follow him. Think about that. You want me to follow him, but you ain't following him. So these laws, the Most High treasure, and he follows them. He keeps them, rather. Uh, so that's what you got to understand. Like, well, how am I going to get out of that? Because here's the bigger thing. If you were waiting on the Most High to die so that the law can be break, if he died, who gonna bring him back? Ain't no. Why would God that say, I raise my hand and I say I am forever in Deuteronomy 32? Why is he gonna die? How is he gonna die? Who's gonna bring him back? You gotta have. You can't be dead and bring yourself back. That's my point. So if he ever died, he was the husband, as I pointed out in Jeremiah 31:31 and Jeremiah 3:8 and verses 8 through 14, excuse me, chapter 3, Jeremiah 3, verses 8 through 14. He said, I was married unto you, and he said, I was a husband in Jeremiah 31:31. If he was the husband, you were waiting on him to die so that he can come back, and they were kicked off the covenant in 2 Kings 17. I want to say 17 and 9. But we could start there, and could have started there and read through, but it's in 2 Kings 17. So how's he gonna die? So if he can't die and he gave you a bill of divorce, that means that the lost sheep would have been permanently taken away from the covenants if the Most High never died. But no covenant can come back because nobody has that authority to grant the blessings that are in the covenant unless you are God. That's the part I'm trying to get you to see. You have to understand what the covenant is and who had the authority to make the things in the covenant happen. Our obedience, his power, and his blessing. So with that being said, let's finish reading verse 4. Romans 7 and 4. Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Christ, that ye should be married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God. Olive is a fruit. That's what the olive tree metaphors are. The broken branches being put back on the tree, grafting in, if you will. That's what that means. Put a dead branch back on a live tree. You slam the tree, you tape it up, put it on there, and eventually those microorganisms will rebound and it'll hold that branch, and the branch will regenerate and become part of that tree again. So you have to understand it that way. And this is why it's so important for us to understand that when we're talking to the 12 tribes or the lost sheep, because and the only reason I have this up too is because I'm sitting down and I know you can't see my fringes, but I do have my fringes on at the bottom of this. I just put that on for marker, so you'll know um, that that's what's up. But back to this particular process. So you were saved by the body of Christ. That is the law that Christ came to fulfill, the law that the husband has to die before the wife can remarry. And in this case, the bride or the wife, as spoken of, I've already broke that down to you, that it refers to the house of Israel, or the house and the house of Judah. But in this case, the house of Israel is the one that was granted the certificate of divorce. Keep that in mind. On understanding that, expand your mind. Now, don't be stupid and silly and not, no. That's what it's saying, bro. So, with that being the case, if he said you can marry him to even him, this is what's more peculiar. In verse 4, Christ died, right? But on the third day, he was crucified on Friday, not able to be checked on Saturday because it was the Sabbath day. And then when they came back Sunday, that was the third day. It didn't say 3 days later. It said on the third day. Friday was the first day the events happened. Saturday was the second day. Sunday was the third day, the first day of the week. So when he went and he was checked on, and we already pulled up, now he is above all, right? He is above all that he can be above. In other words, 3 days. The third day he raised. So if he did raise on the third day, now he died in the place of the Most High, that sacrifice, but he rose and the Most High gave him the children of Israel. I was only sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, in the book of Matthew, excuse me. That's what he meant. I was only sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So if he was only sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, once he sacrificed his body and died, I mean, he went through it to do that, but he gave it up. The Most High gave the 12 tribes of Israel to Christ. And 1 Timothy 2 and 2 Timothy 2 and 5 says that Christ is the only mediator between us and the Most High. So God gave him that authority as the new husband. So that's why we have to follow Christ. That's why we have to follow him to get the okay from the Most High that we can exist in the kingdom of heaven, because he's the one that has the authority to set that stage on planet Earth, right? But by the word of Christ. So what I want you to do is to understand that particular angle of that. And I am here to try to help you clear that up. So with that being the case, let's take a look at now. We also have to keep in mind that when Christ shed blood while he was being crucified, that represented basically the blood sprinkling of Exodus 24, the equivalent of that on the altar, with the blood being sprinkled, onto those who are being part of the covenant, or being reestablished with the covenant. So the process was the exact same, and it took the Most High 3 days before he didn't allow, he had to allow the cleansing, or the, whether externally or internally, you had to be cleansed before coming back into his presence, even through the covenant. So everything uh, in the book, the beginning, whether it was physical, eventually was remanifested metaphorically or allegorically. So there had to be an establishment of that in order for the rituals or the movements to be explained. But the bottom line is Christ represented that sacrifice. His blood, instead of the blood of an innocent animal, it was the man that did not deserve or had to die for, to save his people. He said he was only sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You find it. Read your book. So but I'll tell you it's in the book of Matthew. So the point of it is, he came for a specific people. Um, and that was the reason. The thing that sealed it up is Romans 7:4, when Paul was explaining, like, why is he talking about marrying somebody that dead and came back? You can even marry him who married to another, even to him who is raised from the dead. That's who the children of Israel are married to now. That's who is the head of the covenant. And Christ's job will be to get out those 2/3 that ain't doing what's right, and reserve the 1/3, and tell God at the end of the day. And I'm breaking this down to modern day terms, basically to say, hey, they did what's right. Pop, he's talking to the Most High now. They deserve to come into the kingdom. All right, well, I let them in. Since you, Christ, since my son said that y'all good, come on up in my house, which is the kingdom of heaven, which will be on earth, rulership of this planet. That's what it's basically is. It's the top group on the planet, backed by the one who created it, saying that I'm going to set it up to where you all will be the chosen tribes or the chosen group that I will honor. So that's the part that needs to be clear. But the bottom line is Christ dying as the sacrifice, but the law that he fulfilled. He said, I did not change one jot or tittle. So all of the laws that are in the Torah are still active today, and we have to practice them to rehearse the righteous acts that the tribe of Levi messed up. But we still have to rehearse them because those will be our rituals once the kingdom is established. We don't have to go to the temple to do those particular rituals, but we are to do them where we are in order to practice them, because they were the laws. And when you do your burnt offering, I mean, whoever's at your place or however that you guys set it up or wherever it's set up at, so be it. But my point is that we rehearse the righteous acts. That means to follow those commandments, all of them. So, but the law that Christ fulfilled was Deuteronomy 24, 1 Corinthians 7:39, explained in Romans 7, verse 4 in particular, but read 1 through 4, and to bring about what was mentioned in Hebrews 8:8, and one of the titles, or one of the precepts, where he would be establishing the new covenant. So that's the picture. And so when I've talked to a couple of thousand with my job, with what I was doing, and me coming across a lot of the lost sheep, I have to explain it to them in such a way where they're trying to see why he wants us. Okay, first you have to know that you were lost. Lost means scattered, not following the command of the covenant. And you need to know all of that so that you can understand what you gave up, or your forefathers, and what you can reattain by doing this, changing that, follow these specific rules, and you'll get that magic. You'll get that smoke at the top of the mountain, where that one who created all these things will basically bless you. If there's any other component that you want me to dig into or to continue from on that, I've gone over an hour now. It doesn't take long to do it. Once you start talking, you get filled with the scriptural spirits. But if you have any particular angle or question that I need to add or clear up, please put it in the comment section below. And hopefully you all are subscribed so that you can get to all of the actual uploads. And we can grow this in the future. Any brothers out there that dispute, or we can do this civilly, because the goal is to get to get a bigger platform to get to the end. So I'm comfortable with that. So post what you need to post, and let's go in and with all our wisdom, let's get some understanding here. But until that time, shalom, and leave your comments below and subscribe. Thank you.